Welcome to our next episode of Flip the Stock Market. This episode is about why community is the most important factor in crypto. And that's my belief because it represents the supply side, how diamond-handed the holders are, and the demand side such that the current holders are able to generate demand and foster a culture that inspires people to enthusiastically serve the mission. A lot of people perceive the importance of community in crypto as juvenile, overhyped, and ephemeral. They think it's all about the tech, but they're completely wrong because the most fundamental level tokens achieve their valuation is through fundamental economics of supply and demand. Buyers and sellers determine the price of the token. Buyers and sellers are all part of the community. And that's why this episode is all about why community is the most important factor in crypto.
Amen.
So I'll go through something that I was thinking about recently with respect to community, because I think people who say that the community doesn't matter are actually not like fully tracing it to first principles. When I was like back in my sort of like seed, my like kind of hedge fund, traditional finance, quant investing seed at Bridgewater, like one of the things that was really interesting to me was when I first got involved in investing, when I was like a kid fresh out of college, you think like there's some like a pretty simple or limited set of factors that drive the risk and return of different assets. So like you get out of college, you're like, oh, I'll look at a PE ratio or a price to book ratio on a stock. And then like as time went on, and I progressed in my career and I got to Bridgewater, I realized like, whoa, okay, like the world is like crazy complex. There's like hundreds or even thousands of factors that are interacting at any given point in time that you need to understand to be able to make sort of like assessments or predictions of markets. And like the world has continued to get sort of more and more complex with the internet and the speed of information, the behaviors of humans and the factors that drive markets. But like more recently, as I've kind of gone from like this very simplistic view of the world to this super complex view of the world, I've actually thought about deeply how it actually collapses back down to something really, really simple. So no matter what asset we're talking about, whether it's a company, a stock, a token, what have you, it all, at the end of the day, it all boils back to supply and demand. And the supply and demand is, to Tanz's point, is all built around community and the growth of the community and the sustainability of the community. And so even if you're talking about a stock or a commodity or what have you, there's a narrative. The narrative is a mechanism to stimulate a community. So, I have this really good investment thesis about this company. This company is going to generate revenues. That is a narrative that is used to create a community that has a set of beliefs around this thing. The narrative does not necessarily have to tie back to cash flows, but that is something that traditionally, in finance has like been a great mechanism for stimulating a community. And I think what's happening here is it's interesting because we're almost skipping over this like step of recognizing that it's all about community. It's all based on the narrative, and you can build a community that has a set of beliefs that are not necessarily attached to some of these like traditional ways of thinking around the world about the world. So I think what SPX is doing is like it's kind of tracing what actually gives an asset value to its most fundamental level, which is the hardcore nature of the holders, the growth of the holders, the depth of belief. And I think like this is just it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I think one of the most fascinating things about community is that, well, first off, I think like, how do you build a good community? Like, what's the like cause of a strong community? And I think that's culture and messaging. So if you have the right culture and messaging, then you can build um, the type of community that SPX has. But like as we've seen, like consistently throughout the history of crypto, like no matter how much money you have and no matter how much money you spend, you can't buy community and you can't buy culture either. So it's like when you're first building that culture, it's super delicate, you know, and like a single person or like a single incident can completely like destroy that culture and destroy the community. But I think at a certain point it hits this crossover point where the culture is so strong and the community is growing itself by spreading that culture individually, such that like the culture becomes a lot more robust and it's not as delicate. And if you can like cross that phase, which I think SPX has done, then that's like a moat that's like invaluable, because like no matter how much money you spend on that, you just can't buy that.
Yeah, I think too. I don't want to like go too corpo with how I think about this, but you know, like I come from like a very kind of like all things sales and marketing over the last like 5-6 years, primarily in startups. You know, very hard work. It's very hard work to like make a new thing a reality by not only offering something unique and valuable, but getting it to people correctly. Um, One thing I really like about crypto in general is like the actual fair launch decentralized coins are peer to peer, right? So it's like your holders are your go to market team, for lack of a better term, right? There's no like this is obviously not true in the centralized method of crypto, which is, you know, none of us really subscribe to anyway. But there's no formal sales department. There's no formal marketing department. You know, there's obviously you can have price kind of speak for you sometimes if someone decides to make your coin go up, but that's harder and harder every day with an infinite supply of tokens, right? So, you know, ultimately what that boils down to is like, how are you going to grow? How are you going to attract bid, right? How are you going to attract more holders, more long-termists? The answer is, and I believe everything that you said, Tans, is a true innovation that SPX brought to the market, having kind of, you know, commandments obviously is like what we call them, but guidelines as to like, you know, what it is that we're trying to do and how to approach things, like the building of a culture. This makes it really easy for new people to join, for new people to have an impact almost right away, and for new people to find other new people. I know all of us have onboarded people in our lives, and I think it was before the show. I don't know if we were live yet, but Matt and Manj were talking about, you know, just the ease of kind of like onboarding people after, you know, at the gym or whatnot. And how it's really easy to just kind of send them a few tokens, which I personally always do when I onboard like a friend or something. It completely dispels their idea of how crypto should work. Like it's actually multiple people that I've talked to find it kind of jarring or kind of like, oh, you're just going to like, you know, give me some for free basically. And I'm like, yes, don't sell it, but just like basically I'll send them a video or two after. I'll be like, watch this, you know, maybe one Murad and then like someone else in the community, just so that like a Southern Fried Chad interview or something. That way they understand that, you know, this is you know, kind of bigger than just one person. And also people really care about this stuff. Like it's a deep reality for some people. And, you know, that I think scales exponentially and is completely irreplaceable by any form of centralized model. And I think as the world becomes increasingly flooded with like new startups and you know, there's this sentiment around like corporate overlords, you're going to see more and more people try to find these networks as like a way to kind of protest against that, or even just find like-minded people. It's much more appealing than like investing in Lululemon number 12.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, well, how has SPX been able to, hold these levels? When you see all these other coins are down, 90% from all-time highs, and the communities are still around, but they're kind of dying. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the community itself. And there's like these stats that are coming out now, how Gen Z doesn't drink alcohol really anymore. They did like over the last 5 years, alcohol consumption's down like a big number. But in the same turn, gambling is up exponentially. And obviously causation isn't correlation, but I think a lot of that is when you stop going out with your friends, like aside from the drinking part, a lot of it's just the camaraderie, the dopamine of being around a group of people that you love, and you're laughing and you're having fun. And, if you stop going out and you're looking to feel good, and you don't drink now, right? Because they're not drinking, which is a good thing. I think that's fine. But then you start gambling for that dopamine hit. I think a lot of that is loneliness. And I think when you study the SPX community, what you see is people are here getting dopamine from the interaction, because it's not this manufactured community. It is a real community of people that care. And that's why it kind of breaks off into all these little like places. Like for me personally, I am talking to Aeons about their health all the time, like Nika and 1% and Southern Fried Chad now. I'm always checking in on him with his diet and stuff. And it's like, one, because I truly care. That's like a passion of my life. But two, it's like that's the community. Like that is the utility. Is we have been able to take online something that's been so divisive and make it inclusive, right? And I just don't think people understand that yet. And that's bullish, in my opinion. It just shows how early we are. But that is something that there isn't a metric that could measure that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, just the value of like having relationships it's invaluable. Like every time we do this podcast, it's like one of my favorite times of the week. And then like I posted this chart the other week that was about 4 degrees of separation. I think in like the 1970s or something, it was like 6 degrees of separation. So you had to do like 6 hops to find like, a person, a person in common. Whereas like with Facebook, and I think that study was done when it had like 700 million users. It had reduced to just 4 hops. So I imagine now with, like billions of people using social media, it has to be even less.
Yeah.
So just like interacting like in a community with, 200,000 people, like you have access to, it's likely that you have access to almost like anyone in the world. So that's like, that's the power of having a network.
Yeah, it's powerful because like we all feel this and experience this and talk about this. Like the connections here, at least for me, are like deeper than any that I've built in other, crypto asset communities. But like one of the things that I think is kind of interesting is how people interpret language. So what I mean by that is like you say, okay, the thing that matters most for an asset is community, and people will like. I think some people will like sort of scoff at that, or they'll be like, what do you mean? Like it has to do something. Like it can't just be about community. But if you rewind to like when like some people were trying to figure out what it is about, like in the early days, what it is about Bitcoin that's contributing to its success, it was things like Metcalfe's law and like network effects, and community is just another like word or term for network effects. And obviously network effects were the holder base, the community are things that led to Bitcoin success. They're things that led to Facebook's success and now Meta. Like, I don't even know why this is controversial, or like why like some people like don't quite see this, because to me, it just seems so obvious to me. And And I think it's almost like they're getting lost in the nomenclature a little bit. And they're like, oh, okay, like community, that doesn't make sense to me. Oh, network effects, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I think you can like pretty much pull out your phone or your computer and like go onto like CoinMarketCap and just scroll down, and you'll realize that that like the ranking of each token is pretty much proportional to like the level of public discourse surrounding that token. Like obviously there's some exceptions and inefficiencies, but that correlation makes it like pretty clear that that community is that special sauce.
Yeah, I agree completely. I also think there's just like a natural forcing function of doing anything difficult together that creates these like very inseparable bonds. That's why I think it's so important to have either fair launch or proof of work or some equivalent, because people have to kind of earn their seat at the table, and that makes hard times easier because there's more camaraderie around it. And for anyone that's been involved in like Matt, obviously I know you've been involved in a lot of kind of like more traditional or seen more traditional like venture deals that happen in crypto, where it's kind of functions like a venture market deal in private markets, or traditional startups. Like, there's a big attitude from holders, or be that equity, the token itself, points, what have you, of like, okay, dev do something, what's the plan, what's the roadmap? Like, there is an eternal complacency from holders, right? Yeah. It's just basically like, what are these other people doing for me? Which kind of, I understand where that comes from, because that's how like traditional equities work, but it completely defeats the purpose. And in fact, like, I find that those circles tend to be extremely negative, because generally price is going down. It's very hard to make price go up. People kind of turn against each other. Everyone gets kind of angry. And no one looks for solutions because it's theoretically like on the team, right? And I think that's why this stuff is so powerful, because you have a group of generalists who, when their back's against the wall, they have to figure out like, how do we overcome this, right? How do we come together and figure out a way to move forward? And I think that's like a very, very powerful and underrated thing. For instance, like I personally took a lot of inspiration when I joined SPX from the OGs, when I would listen to Spaces. I did like a brief period of like a week to 2 weeks of like due diligence, which was basically just like auditing the community to understand like how much they stuck by their word, which obviously I found great things. And you blink twice and all of a sudden like you're on a podcast and you've been kind of evangelizing for like a year and change. And like, I don't even really believe in this concept of like OGs, because, in 10 years, like we're all going to be OGs, and it also won't even really matter. But it's just very clear that like the network effects here are compounding when you spend good time in the community, because there are people here who have now lived, 3 to 4 different Aeon lives.
Yeah. And Cal, like to your point about like other communities, like there's no easy path here. Okay. Right. Like there's no easy path to building like a sustainable, cryptocurrency or crypto asset network that is centered around community. Like you will have to go through and endure all the ups and downs. And that's the same for even the most successful assets.
Of course.
Like, no different for Bitcoin, no different for ETH. So there's no easy road. And I found that a lot of those types of assets, they're not as robust, they're not as diversified in the belief basis, they're not as Lindy. And at some point they're going to go through those things too. And this is like the moment that you like, a moment like now where the market is today, this is like when you get tested, and this is when you see what people are made of, and this is when you see what the community is made of. And do they keep going? Great. Like that's a signal. Like, so you can be finding a lot of signal in the way that people are behaving around the bad times in the market, and how the community is growing or the community is sticking around. And at the end of the day, like going back to my point about, what is it that drives like asset growth, asset appreciation if we look at across every asset, the assets with the most hardcore holder base that continue to grow win. Like it's kind of as simple as that. So you want to be finding the most hardcore things, the most hardcore holders you can possibly find out there. that are like committed to this thing. Like it's a binary commitment. It's a 1 or a 0. They're in, and they continue to stick around and fight and grow and have fun and make memes and all that sort of stuff. And like the things that fit that profile win, whether we're talking about crypto or we're talking about stocks. Like, look, like Tesla, like some of these cult stock names, Palantir, like this is not about cash flows. Okay. Like it's not. Like it's about like the cult sort of hardcore base of the holders who believes in a narrative or believes in something or believes that, there's this community of people that they like being on this mission with. And that's why these assets have done well historically.
I agree. And I just want to add, like, it should not be easy. It is best if it's not easy, because you want this is just basic, like, kind of logical follow through, right? Like that's how you get the people who aren't going to sell, who are in it for the actual mission. You have to time test them.
You cannot get outlier returns from doing something that is easy. You just simply not. Because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it and you would get no outlier returns from that.
Yep. 100%.
And I mean, how do you build like strong relationships with people in general? Like, you can never really understand someone's character until you go through like the low points as well. So that's how relationships ultimately become really robust. And another thing that I wanted to add is that it's so much better to build a community in a bottoms up fashion. Like when you don't have any of this tech, you don't have any leaders or devs or people that you're going to be relying on, then like everybody in the community has to take like self accountability. It's just like a given. And when you look at the kind of work like that the average SPX holder is putting in, and you try to put a dollar value on that, and this goes back to like talking about how the value of community is, you just can't even put a number on it, because if you were to do that, then like a single Aeon with like all of the work that they put in, a brand would have to, like, first off, a brand wouldn't be able to get someone that motivated to put in that kind of work. And if they did, it would literally be worth like, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I mean, this is like, I actually, in a lot of ways, like view SPX as like a value investment, because I actually think like on a per holder, per capita basis, like we as like the inputs to this thing's success are effectively being undervalued. I'm like, okay, like what's the, like, because you can just do some simple heuristic napkin math. You could be like, okay, we're at this market cap, there's this many holders, like what's each one of them worth? And I'm like, okay, like I look at myself, I'm like, okay, I'm going to step up and I'm going to make myself worth more to the network than where people are currently pricing me. And if I think if a lot of other people like look at that and take the same type of initiative, then we can't, this goes back to my thing about like Aeons are in control. We can do that. Like if someone tells me, me as a user, I'm worth like $2,000, I'm going to be like, screw you. I'm going to show you that I'm worth like $200,000, and I'm going to work and do these things and continue to invest capital and continue to DCA and continue to onboard people and prove that. And so if we just take the initiative to sort of like prove the market wrong, there's no doubt, in my mind that like we as a community or we as users are being tremendously undervalued here.
Yeah, I actually think I think there will be a time in the future. I don't know what market cap will be at when this starts. I don't even know if it has to do with market cap, more just mass adoption. But I think that companies will be coming to SPX, to the community, to try to have a product, right? Like I saw a comment like SPX should make an energy drink. And the first thing that I thought of was like, I actually think there'll be a point in time where like some yerba mate company comes to SPX and goes, we want to put the coin on on our can, because they're going to see the value of the community. You know, I really think that we're going to get to that,
Great.
to a point like that. I do.
These are brands, after all.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen it happen, like with stronger like NFT communities. You know, they'll get like access to these airdrops or like whatever else. And that's because these brands or whatever they are see value in those communities. And the same thing is definitely going to happen with SPX.
Go where the users are, right?
And I actually heard Luca talking about why he made the coin, and I agreed with him. And his whole thing was like the NFT, the Pudgy Penguin NFT was great. It showed that we had a community, but it was not enough. It was too small, and to participate, you would at this point need a lot of money. So making the meme coin made it a vehicle that's more accessible to everyone. And I agree with that. And I feel like we're kind of seeing that evolution, the good parts of these NFT communities, but now it's far more dispersed and liquid. And I think that is kind of the evolution a little bit. I don't want to say evolution, but it kind of takes some good parts of the NFT and expands it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Manj, because I think like a lot of people looked at the NFT experiment, let's say, as like a failure at this point. And I actually don't think that's totally true, because I think NFTs were good at sort of building brands and building communities, but they shot themselves in the foot because the way to scale that is so like building like sort of a socio-financial network effect around that, right? And when you only have 1,000 of these things or 10,000 of these things, you can't actually build a community and get the network effects. Like you're literally like shooting yourself in the foot, or you're capping your ability to scale this into what it could ultimately become. And what some of these like coin communities, especially like SPX, have done is they've taken some of the things about NFTs and building these brands and building these communities and building these fun places for people to hang out on the internet, but they've allowed it to scale far beyond, like orders of magnitude beyond what the NFT segment of the market ever did, simply by like allowing more people to participate in that game.
Yeah, and I think the NFT product, the NFT project of SPX actually then becomes very useful in the sense of, as this continues to grow, the people that own the NFTs are going to be the early adopters of SPX. So, it gets to show like, yeah, I have one of the, there's only 3,333 or something like that. So those will be owned by early SPX adopters. And, early could mean the people that bought it in the first 3 years, right? When you're talking 10 years down the line. So I think it adds some value. It's like, oh man, that must be a OG SPX guy. He's got a Project A on. And I think that is real utility to an NFT project when it's paired with a liquid meme coin.
Agreed.
I'll add to this too. Like, I think one of the most useful byproducts of the like Murad's token 2049 in 2024 speech was kind of like thinking from first principles. Like when you look at the top X coins, call it like top 20. I have it pulled up right now. We have Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dogecoin, XRP, Cardano, Chainlink, like all coins that have zero, technological reason to be in the top 100 even, right? There's just no reason, but all of them had, either an ICO in 2017 or proof of work or some equivalent. All of them required, years of reaccumulation of kind of initial believers who you can call whatever names that you want. Like many of them have outperformed 99.9% of traders, right? And a large part of this is because, like, very simply, in my eyes at least, crypto assets are just vehicles of supply and demand for people to try to create new currencies, right? And therefore, the value is intrinsically within the community, because none of these things, you could even argue Bitcoin being at number one falls in this category. None of these things have any quote unquote like fundamental value in sort of like the intelligent investor sense of the word. But clearly that doesn't really matter, right? Mm-hmm. So I think asking yourself, like, instead of being like one of the kind of accounts or naysayers or what have you that, sees an XRP or Cardano or what have you in the top 10 and being like, oh, that means this industry is a scam. Like, it's a much better question to ask, like, okay, well, how is that possible, right?
Yeah.
How did that happen, and why is it staying there?
Yeah, and I think like all those coins you mentioned, like interestingly coming from my role in the industry over the last couple of years, like doing venture investing, and like the VCs miss all these coins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny. Like it's like I think these are the right questions to be asking.
And it makes sense because a VC is naturally attracted to like a shiny new thing, and they want to sell a shiny new thing, and that's their job, right? So it makes sense. But that's kind of why you have like the, I think that the left curve, right curve, mid curve meme like applies so well to crypto, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the like someone who mined Dogecoin in 2014 is like in the top 0.0001 percentile of all crypto performers if they just held the token, because they thought like funny dog.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Funny famous dog. So yeah, I mean, I think like those type of people tend to congregate around each other, and it's pretty irrefutable if you just look at the data that there is like a long-term value accretion there.
And I think like from going back to my point about like looking at SPX as a value investment, like essentially mispriced people in a mispriced network of people who are out there like working every day. One of the things I love about SPX is it makes it easier for me to have that thesis, because I see people I know and who I trust who are out there doing it every day. Like I see you guys posting every day. I see Maddox DCAing every day. I see Ilya and Grille like putting together, and Jesse putting together the Art Basel thing for December, like, and working every day. I see Seb out on the London Bridge or wherever he is every day. So like I know these people they're playing that role, and I'm going to play that role with them. And the more people that step up and play that role and show that this is basically a network of like sort of deeply undervalued humans who are not going to stop, who are out there every day supporting this thing, is it's like worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when the only reason you're holding an asset is because you think it's going to go up and the price stagnates, like why are you going to stick around? So that's what I think community does best. And like what can you do like with that community, and how can it provide value? I think it can help with mental health, like just being around people. It can help you like get access to opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have. It can help you just build like productive relationships in general that like might help you, I don't know, like bootstrap like a business or something. Like, we see people doing all types of things, like releasing clothing, like releasing books. There's just like so many options you have. I mean, we started this podcast together. There's in-person meetups, and you can like you can grow like on social media, I mean, this channel just got monetized just from us, talking about SPX. So there's tons of ways that you can get value out of a community. You just kind of have to figure out how to unlock it.
Yeah, actually, on that point, Tans, one of the things I was thinking about recently that I'll sort of like put out there for like all of us to think about creatively is and we're starting to go down this path. I think meetups in like the real world are extremely valuable. Like there's no doubt about it. Like even in the business world, it's like, okay, yeah, like go meet someone in person. Don't just do a Zoom. Like that's where like the real relationships are forged in person. And I think to the extent that we can be doing more of that, it's going to be very, very beneficial. And one of the things I was thinking about recently is like, okay, we've got all these Aeons in these different geographic hubs around the world. Like, there's Aeons in London, there's Aeons in France, there's Aeons in New York, there's Aeons in California. And can we be creating sort of like we obviously have like the RSPX Reddit page, but are there ways for us to create like almost like geographic subreddits, so to speak, where like I can interact with Aeons who are in New York, and it's like, okay, like let's go. I don't know who all the Aeons in New York are, so it's like I would love to like be able to have like a sub community of Aeons in the New York area that it's like, okay, yeah, let's like work on some New York stuff. We want to go into the city one day and have some fun and pass out flyers or, just like raid people in real life. Great. Let's do that. And let's figure out different ways to get organized around that. And then people can do that in all of these sort of geographic hubs where there's Aeon. So I don't know what form something like that takes, but to me, if we can figure out how to coordinate better around meetups and mini meetups in these geographic hubs, this is going to be like an awesome thing. And it's going to be something that I'm going to like love to do with other people in my own state.
Yeah. And I actually have a real life example of just like going out to dinner with a couple Aeons where I'm at. And, obviously we were having a conversation and basically they gave me a finance tip that is going to help me like save like a significant like portion of the money that like I would otherwise be spending. So, you can just get value in like so many unexpected ways.
I also think like I agree with you completely, Tans and Matt, and I think Tans, that's a great example of like how it can manifest in different ways. I do think it would be awesome to have like an easier way to meet up more consistently than say like, I know some people are going to Basel. I think that sounds really cool. But at the end of the day, like the more we can kind of form these relationships on the ground, the more people want to fight for their teammates, the stronger the bond becomes, the faster like the network grows, et cetera. But I also think like one of the beauties of being truly decentralized and permissionless and like across the world is kind of the spontaneity of the value you do get, right? Like Manj, for instance, I have gotten, tips from Manj on like, supplement stacks, and it's improved my sleeping like by such like a vast margin that I feel like a 2 or 3x human as a result. Like it's amazing stuff, right?
Magnesium maxing.
Yeah. Oh, big time. I think I've listened to every single Southern Fried Chad podcast interview. The amount of like, it's essentially completely replaced podcasts for me. The amount of like kind of casual inspiration that I get passively is completely unmatched here compared to anything that I've experienced like in my life, right? And so everyone's gonna have like their own version of that, which I think is very powerful because it speaks to like whatever you kind of either A, need most, or B, kind of fits your interests or the niche that you're involved in most. So I encourage like anybody who is casually in SPX to try to find the subset of people that best kind of matches you. Another one, like I was in Germany at the beginning of this year, like spring-ish, and I had never been to Germany before, and I had some German Aeons reach out to me and basically say like, oh, don't, like, this area sucks, like don't go here, you should go here instead. I'm like, how else could I possibly have, I basically would have gotten some other, random American guy telling me like the casual tourist trap stuff if it wasn't for that. So super, like, it's just very cool.
Right. And what other community has like a tipping culture where just by like contributing to helping with the community, people are going to help you out financially. So that's, like another way that you can unlock value within the community.
Yeah, tipping culture is incredible. Game changer. I'm gonna have to go on mute. But yeah, tipping culture is goated.
Yeah, I will say I didn't. Obviously, I think it's hard to be anti-tipping culture as a concept, but I didn't quite understand the importance of it until I did it once or twice, and then I received one or two. I don't have like a wallet up anymore just because I'd rather other people get it, but I did because I had like my DCA wallet public. This was probably like 6 months ago or so, and I was like, wow, so like that's so cool. That's like you chose me. That's so nice. and then it made me understand instantly, like, oh, this is like a way to show people that you care beyond, not only that you care beyond like the basic stuff, but also that you're willing to like quite literally invest in your network, your friends, the people that you think are a part of this that matter. And that's just like there's a ripple effect of second order, third order effects of like inspiration that other people feel as a result of that, right? It makes them want to work harder. It makes everyone want to be a part of like the greater good, which is not to be overlooked.
Yeah, it's like a demonstration of a generous community and group of people, right? Like who doesn't want to be part of a generous community and group of people? Like, even if we were to like replace SPX with the US dollar and just say like, imagine there was like this really nice group of people that were always like tipping each other in US dollars. Like, yeah, that's like seems like a great group of people to be associating with and to be around.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, to your point, Matt, like 5 or 6 episodes ago, it's like proof of it being like a cryptocurrency, the emphasis on the currency, right? As much as it's great to hold in DCA, like I think those are the best things. I also see a world where, maybe one day you can use SPX at an Aon owned store, or restaurant, or what have you, right? I think that there's so many applications like that have really yet to be explored, which makes sense. I don't think they're that, pressing at the moment. But, the end state of network effects is just like a useful currency.
I think that's, one of my like longer term theses is I think that's coming to every cryptocurrency, your ability to like go and spend it and pay. Like, I think it started out as like, oh, pay, go to this place and pay in Bitcoin. But like practically speaking, like this is a permissionless industry. And I think there's a lot of companies that are going to be like, hey, like we shouldn't necessarily like decide what people want to use as their own cryptocurrency and what they want to pay in. Like, let's just enable everything. If it's a token on Ethereum or on Solana or on Bitcoin, like you can just go and pay at any place that accepts crypto. And this is like, I think, and then it goes back to like the topic that we're discussing today. At the end of the day, if you can use these things, any of these things at any store or any place in the world that you want to, and that like future comes true, then what are going to be the best actual currencies? It's going to be the ones with the deepest, broadest, most resilient, most sticky community.
Totally agree. And I think another huge value proposition of community is just like the teamwork aspect. If anyone's played like team sports growing up, like the feeling of just like being on a team and like having each other's back and working together to like achieve a desired outcome, it's super special. And like I'm still like nostalgic about the team sports that I played growing up, and even like it's similar to like being a part of a company too. Like I know Cows, you've been a part of startups. Matt, you've been a part of like early stage companies, and yeah, it's just like an amazing feeling to have this like mutually beneficial relationship with people where the incentives are aligned, as opposed to like what the crypto market looks like right now, where it's just like totally adversarial and parasitic. Like with SPX, like you have a home team, and I think that's super special.
Yeah, and like I've been a part of good teams and bad teams and very entrepreneurial oriented organizations, and then ones that were like less so. And like there's no better, whether you're talking about sports or a company or what have you, like, and just being on a team in general, there's no better feeling than like looking around and seeing the people on your team working their ass off day in and day out, fighting for the same things you are, fighting for the same things you believe in, versus you being like the only one who cares. You know, like we've probably all been on a team where it's like, you know, you care so much, and then like your teammates, then you're like, can you guys just like step it up, you know? But then you've been on teams where it's like, you don't even have to tell people because everyone's just super talented, hardworking, gritty, doesn't matter what the circumstances are. They're going for it the same way you are. And that is like the best feeling. And that is also a feeling I get here with SPX.
Yeah, that's a great point. The financialized like sports team analogy, I think hits really hard, because I think even if like I agree with you, Tens. Like I remember very fondly. Yeah, I remember very fondly. You know, like playing on my old soccer team and all that kind of stuff, and I still play it all the time, like on random teams. It's a very fun thing. But I think as you get older, like, you know, your support of your favorite club or your favorite team or whatnot, like you can feel the passion from people. And I think it goes another level in like a token like SPX, where you actually have to, like, you are the team, you know, you're not just a supporter, like you're a player.
Tans' AI, we got to get that trending.
No wonder they call him the ghost.
Tans is a bot.
One thing that I would say is, I kind of thought about it when you were talking about this, Matt. When you're like building like these foundations for these buildings, it is like some of the most gruesome work, and you, like, I have relationships with these people like 8 years later, and it's because of that. Like, you showed up every day. It was rain, it was snow. You know, some jobs are almost a year long, so it's from 100 degrees to 0 degrees, but you also get to know them, and you develop this bond, and that's what it was. Like, we showed up every day to win. That's a thing.
And if you do that for long enough, you will. You know, you just will.
It's a marshmallow test, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Just like Bitcoin, like any of these things. I mean, they all, that's what they are, right? Delayed gratification is a lost art. And I even get some value in just having like a group of people to kind of practice that with. I think it's very rewarding to take like a multi-year time frame on something and work toward it together.
Well, yeah, like going back to the thing I mentioned earlier, it's like you want to get outlier returns, you got to do outlier things.
Right.
So one outlier thing you could do is like be smarter than other people, right? Like that. But there's a whole other outlier thing you can do, which is just be unrelenting and literally never stop, and be grittier than other people and go further than other people are willing to go. And that's kind of like what I feel like we're doing here. It's like, yeah, it is hard to persist forever. It is hard to keep going. It is hard to, you know, like when everyone else gets tired and exhausted and ends up exiting the crypto market, by continuing to go, you survive. And at the end of the day, like, this market is a survival game, and you just want to stay in the game. You want to persist forever. You want to let people get sort of tired, exhausted, washed out. And at the moment that you think like, you know, like it's never going to turn around, it always does.
Yeah, I think that's like important to admit to. Like, it can't, I mean, it is a marathon. It can be hard at times, right? Like, you know, that's why like it's important. Like this week, I took like a few days, which I haven't in a long time, like to just kind of stay off Twitter, get a bunch of like real life work I had to get done. It was super refreshing, you know, and I feel great. I'm happy I did it. Like, it's easy to get very intertwined in every single detail. And you have to remember that, like, you're not Usain Bolt. This isn't like the trenches, you know, this isn't leverage trading. You have to do what you need to do to like take a long-term view and, you know, find the right people and the right kind of like group. Obviously this is the right token to help support that. Otherwise, you know, you're making the circumstance like harder for yourself than you need it to be. Do what you need to do, be that DCA and contribution, quantity of contribution, all that, like relationships, to have a 5, 10, 15-year outlook on this. At least that's how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think people have this preconceived notion based on historical performance that like every single crypto asset is just beta to BTC. But I mean, even during bear markets, like you see tokens emerge and go on like these parabolic runs. So I think it's more valuable to kind of have the perspective that like anything can happen, and that you're in control, and just like show up daily and do what you can do. And I think like surprising outcomes can be achieved by just like having that consistency.
Agreed.
Well, you guys ready to wrap up? Cool. Well, this is a fun episode. We actually had a guest scheduled today. He didn't end up making it, so we did the community topic kind of last minute. But we'll have more guests in the future, and we'll be back in the Thursday from next. Go ahead, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, and we'll see